guys, it's Kesara, and today I'm going to be doing my February TBR. So I'm doing my new TBR format in which I have 8 books on the TBR, including a classic sci-fi mystery or thriller novel, a wild card, a middle grade or young adult novel, and then 3 fantasy novels. So I'm pretty excited for the month of February. It's a little bit out of my comfort zone because I picked a lot of books that are slightly out of my comfort zone, but you know what? I'm excited for it because I also have some fantasy books that I've been meaning to get to for a while that I'm really excited for. So without further ado, let's get into the books that I'm planning to read in February. So we're gonna start this off with my classic for the month, which I decided to choose Beloved by Toni Morrison. This is a book that is very loved. Like, a lot of people seem to absolutely love this book. I've also heard that it's kind of cross genre because it's a historical fiction, but with thriller-like elements, which I really like that aspect of it. I'm also using this as part of the Diversathon Readathon because in the month of February, we're supposed to be reading a book where a main character that has a mental illness, and from what I've heard, this book may have something like that. From what I understand, it explores the psychological impacts of slavery, which I think is just really powerful, and I'm excited for that. So hopefully I'll end up loving this as much as everyone else seems to. I am super excited for the sci-fi book that I plan to read this month, and that's A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. So this is a space opera sci-fi that came out, I want to say back in 2019, and I've been meaning to read it since then because it's been super hyped up ever since then, and the next book in this series is coming out very soon, and I'm really excited for this. This is the type of sci-fi I believe, I haven't read it yet, obviously, so I don't know yet, but I believe there's a deep amount of world building in here that I'm really excited for. I feel like this is the type of book that I could potentially really love, but I'm not sure, so we are going to find out, and hopefully that I'll end up loving it. I really love the idea of a space empire, and that cover is just the best. Like, it makes me want to read it so much. It gives me like high fantasy vibes, but like it's sci-fi, so that's like even better. So I'm really excited for this. For my mystery slash thriller novel, I decided to go with Salem's Lot by Stephen King. So this is a book that's been on my shelf for a little while now, like several months, 7 to 8 months. So I haven't gotten to it even though I had planned to get to it. I hadn't had the best track record with Stephen King in 2020. So I kind of stopped reading the books that I had planned to read in 2020. This was one of them. So I think I need to get back to some of his books because I do plan on reading the Dark Tower series later this year, which I'm really excited for. And Salem's Lot is one of those books that they say to read before you get super into the Dark Tower series. So hopefully I'll end up liking this. This is also one of those books that a lot of people think is one of Stephen King's best books of all time. And I'm really excited to see why, because I've read most of the other ones that people really like. For the most part, I've really liked them. So I'm really excited to get to this one also. I know absolutely nothing about it, but for the most part, when it comes to thrillers, especially Stephen King thrillers, I like to go into them as blind as possible. For my wild card, I decided to pick one of my book of the month picks from January. This was actually one of the book of the year finalists for 2020, and that's The Girl with the Louding Voice by Ali Dare. It's about a 14-year-old girl from Nigeria who wants to have an education but is sold as the third wife to this older man. There's definitely an interesting concept here that I'm really excited for, and just based off of the title, I feel like the main character is going to be really interesting, and I'm gonna really like the main character. This is kind of known as feminist literature, so I'm excited for that aspect of it as well. I will say this one is a little bit outside of my comfort zone. It's not the type of book that I typically read, so I'm excited to dive into this, but I'm also a little hesitant. I've heard several people read this book, but I haven't actually like looked at their reviews or anything, so I might look at some of their reviews before getting into it, but I'm definitely excited to step a little bit out of my comfort zone with this one, and hopefully I'll end up loving it. Now for my fantasy picks, these are a lot more in my comfort zone. We're gonna start with my YA pick, and that's We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal. So this is the sequel to We Hunt the Flame, and I'm really excited for it. It literally just came out. I just got the audiobook from my library, so I'm gonna be switching between the audiobook and the physical book, and I can't wait for it. I am so excited for this. It's about a girl named Safira who can hunt in the R's, and in the first book she has to go on this quest because she's one of the few people that can lead them to the place that they have to go for the quest. Anyways, I really enjoyed it. It definitely surprised me because I felt like it had a unique like setting, it had a unique concept that I really liked. I also really liked the writing, so I'm really excited for that. Also, it had like a hint of what could potentially be a romance, but without going like super into the romance, so I loved that aspect of it also. I thought the first one was just an all-around good book, so I'm excited to get to the second one because I'm hoping it'll be even better, and it is pretty thick. I like it when YA books get thick like that because usually that means they're really good, so I'm really excited for this. Now for my adult fantasy picks for the month of February. The first one is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. I reread the 5th season towards the end of last year because I wanted to move on to The Obelisk Gate, and then I just got like distracted by a bunch of things and never got around to it, so I think it's finally time to get to The Obelisk Gate. This is the second book in the Broken Earth trilogy, in case you didn't know. Broken Earth trilogy is a fantasy dystopian novel in which there are people who can kind of change how the land works, but they're hunted for their powers if they show their powers, and they're taken to this place where they learn to control them, or rather other people control them. I really enjoyed the first book in the series, and I'm excited to see what happens with The Obelisk Gate. I have an idea of where the series is going, but I'm not sure, so I'm really excited for this, and if I get super into it, then maybe, we'll see, I'll continue on with the next one, but I'll definitely be reading at least the second book in this series in the month of February. If you guys have been watching my channel at all, you could probably guess what this next book is going to be, because it's The Fire of Vengeance by Evan Winter. This book came out back in November, and I've been super excited to get to it, but just haven't had the time to, but I'm finally gonna find the time to get to it in February, and I'm super excited for it. This is the sequel to The Rage of Dragons, which is a gladiator-style, African-inspired fantasy novel, and the thing that I loved about The Rage of Dragons specifically was the ending. The ending of it just made me so excited to read the next book in the series, and I finally have it in my hands. I finally got the audiobook from my library, so I can switch between the audiobook and the physical book, and I'm super excited for it. So yes, I will be definitely reading this in February. It's probably gonna be one of the first books that I pick up, and I can't wait to devour this. And lastly, this one I will at least start in February. I do not know if it'll be finished in February, but I'll at least start it because it is finally time to get to Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. This is the most recent installment to the Stormlight Archives. I finally got through all of the Stormlight Archives that was out last year, which of course is when the 4th book came out. So I'm excited for this. I've specifically stayed away from all of the reviews because I don't want to know what people think about it, just because I did know what people thought about Oathbringer, and I feel like that hindered my enjoyment of it because I went into it thinking that I wasn't gonna like it, and I absolutely loved it despite what everyone else seems to think about that book. So I'm excited for this. I don't want to go into it with any expectations, but I'm just excited to just dive deep into this world again and just get lost in it. This was one of my favorite series of all times, and I'm really excited to get back to it. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so consider subscribing. If you'd like to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!